talking about the fact that he is currently suing his first biological son to quiet him and put a gag order on him. Why would he be doing that?
Do you believe wholeheartedly that Jay's your father?
I really do. And if it's not, why you can't prove me wrong? Like, it's not far as a proving me wrong thing. It's go to the courtroom and basically do what everybody else would have to do. Like, it's not, you don't have to prove me wrong. I just want the truth. Why wouldn't I believe my mom? Like, you know, we could have been settled this, and it only takes a conversation and some words, you know.
I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Rymir's mother was a minor when she conceived Rymir with Mr. Carter, who was a grown adult.
I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything.
He's been in court with this young man for the past decade, fighting taking a DNA test. If he's not your kid, take the DNA test. Him and Blue Ivy got the same mouth.
The headline hit like a grenade. Jay-Z's secret son wins $1.6 billion in court. Screenshots, stitches, think pieces, everywhere. A number that big doesn't trend. It stampedes. Suddenly the Blueprint King looks one ruling away from a yard sale, with brands whispering and timelines rewriting themselves in real time. It's the perfect plot. A mogul, a long-shadowed claim, a marriage built on perfection, boom. But stampedes kick up dust. Underneath it, the docket reads quieter. Rymir Satterthwaite, the man at the center of this, actually withdrew his latest federal case in late July 2025, saying he isn't done, but stepping back from that specific filing. No signed order for $1 billion+ payout, no clerk cutting checks, just a voluntary exit and a promise the fight continues. That doesn't slow the internet, it speeds it up. Old clips of Jay sidestepping DNA talk get replayed like confessions. Threads stitch in decade-old whispers and brand new speculation. A clean narrative writes itself. If he won't test, he must be hiding. If there's smoke, there's fire. If there's a number, it must be true. Meanwhile, the optics tax starts accruing. No press releases required. When your brand is precision, even nearby chaos is expensive. Context doesn't care about timing, but it matters. Earlier this year, a separate civil case that had named Jay-Z alongside Sean Diddy Combs was dismissed with prejudice. Done. Off the board. Different claim, different courtroom, but it set the year's tone. Big accusations, bigger headlines, and a legal paper trail that doesn't always match the noise. So which story are we in? The billion-dollar route or the rumor with perfect timing? The truth is less cinematic. The case driving the latest frenzy isn't over because a judge swung a hammer. It's paused because the plaintiff pulled back. That still leaves a question with real stakes. What happens next if Rymir files again, or if another long-circulating claim jumps back into the light? Because once a number like 1.6 billion attaches to your name, you don't just deny it, you have to out-narrate it. And in 2025, the loudest narrative wins, even when the paperwork whispers something else. To see how we got here, and why the pressure isn't gone, you have to trace Rymir's timeline, the filings, the roadblocks, and why this latest round ended with a withdrawal instead of a verdict. Before the billion-dollar headlines, there was a paper trail. Rymir Satterthwaite has been pushing this claim for years, first through filings tied to his late mother, Wanda, and later under his own name. The through line never changed. He wants a DNA test. He says doors keep closing before he gets one. Coverage of his saga dates his efforts back to around 2010, the start of a long loop of petitions, denials, and jurisdiction fights. Fast forward to 2025. In May, Rymir filed a new federal case, switching venues, switching strategy, trying to drag the question back into open court. Jay-Z's team answered on June 16th, calling the suit just the latest round of decades-long harassment and pointing out that similar claims had already been rejected in multiple courts. They also flagged service issues and asked for more time to respond. It was a calm legal reply with sharp edges. This isn't new, and we've beaten it before. Then came the surprise pivot. In late July, Rymir withdrew the case. No jackpot judgment, no courtroom showdown, followed by an Instagram video on July 27th where he told supporters, "I did withdraw my case. There's a lot going on behind closed doors. We gotta play chess, not checkers." Translation, this isn't over, just paused. One detail his camp can't outrun, Jay-Z's lawyers say there's a 2022 New Jersey injunction that limits any new, related filings without court approval. Part of a larger history they frame as repetitive and already adjudicated. That claim has popped up in multiple write-ups summarizing the filing. Rymir counters that he wasn't properly served and that appeals are in motion. Either way, it explains why the venue keeps shifting and why where he files is as strategic as what he files. So where are we, really? On paper, one more case closed by withdrawal, not by verdict. In the narrative, a renewed spotlight on a man who insists the system keeps almost ducking the simplest answer. For Jay-Z, the move reads like momentum regained. No discovery, no testimony, no court-ordered test. For Rymir, it reads like a reset. Step back, re-aim, fire, later. And that's how a quiet docket can still explode online. A pause in court becomes proof on the timeline, especially when a giant number is floating around like confetti. So how did $1.6 billion become the internet's favorite fact overnight? Follow the math. Algorithm math, not courtroom math, and the rumor that outran reality. Big numbers do big numbers. One screenshot says $1.6 billion. A few reposts add court win, and by lunchtime the internet has a new fact. It reads like justice with fireworks. Secret Son goes from ignored to billionaire breaker. It's cinematic, it's clickable, and it outran reality by miles. Here's what actually sat under the stampede. Rymir withdrew his federal case in late July. He said so himself on Instagram, so there was no judge issuing a mega payout, no clerk cutting checks, no assets being seized. That's the quiet line in mainstream recaps. The viral posts clipped out everything but the shock value. So where did $1.6 billion come from? The algorithm rewards scale and certainty. A creator tosses out a huge number, sometimes riffing off a celebrity's net worth estimate, labels it judgment, and uploads with a confident voiceover. Other channels stitch it, add dramatic music, and repeat the number like it's a case caption. By the third repost, it feels official because you've heard it 3 times, not because a court said it. Meanwhile, the actual docket movement, a voluntary dismissal, gets 2 lines in the outlets that check paperwork. Add timing. Just weeks earlier, a separate civil suit that had named Jay-Z alongside Diddy was dismissed with prejudice. Different case, different facts. Yet the year already felt like charges and counters, so audiences were primed to believe the next headline was the hammer. The contradiction, one big case ending, another supposedly detonating, didn't slow the shares, it juiced them. Creators also love a clean hero, villain arc. He dodged DNA for years, now the bill is due. Clips of Jay sidestepping paternity questions get looped as B-roll while the caption declares victory. Legal nuance, like Jay's June 16th filing calling the suit decades-long harassment and pointing to prior rejections, doesn't test well in the For You feed. Billion-dollar beatdown does. By the time accurate pieces land, case withdrawn, no judgment. The meme has already lapped them. That's how a rumor turns into a weather system. Volume, confidence, and a number big enough to feel like destiny. None of that means the pressure disappears. A withdrawn case can come back in a new venue. And you don't need a verdict to spook partners. Perception does that on its own, which is why the next ripple hits the person with the most to lose on optics. Beyonce, where protect the brand and protect the marriage start pulling in opposite directions. When your brand is precision, chaos is expensive, even if you didn't cause it. That's the bind Beyonce lands in the second $1 billion headline touches her house. She doesn't need to post, clap back, or hint. The calculus begins the moment sponsors start asking quiet questions. Tours, films, fashion, fragrance. Her ecosystem runs on immaculate rollouts. Any perception of disorder nearby becomes a line item. Delay this campaign. Soft pause that announcement. Swap creative that suddenly reads the wrong way. Inside a marriage, that math is colder than the room feels. The internet loves the word ultimatum. The reality is more surgical. Protect the kids. Protect the calendar. Protect the price. That doesn't always look like fireworks. It looks like schedules rewritten at 2 a.m., tightened circles, and comms teams vetting every frame before it leaves a phone. If you've built a public life on controlling the frame starts fighting back when the story refuses to sit still. There's also the association tag. You can be the cleanest name in the room and still pay it. Luxury partners don't need guilty to get skittish. They need uncertainty. A volatile news cycle around a spouse, especially one with mythic stature, creates spillover. Even a rumor can fog up a months-long plan. Investors want clarity. Press wants quotes. Fans want answers. Give too much and you feed the beast. Give nothing and the beast writes your lines for you. So what does protect the brand actually look like here? Fewer joint appearances, more solo moves. A ruthless focus on execution. Rehearsal, release windows, visuals, so the work drowns the noise. A refusal to do reactive content that ages like milk. Behind the scenes, counsel talks to counsel, not blogs, because the worst thing you can do to a precision brand is improvise while the cameras are rolling. None of this answers the marriage question. It only clarifies the stakes. If he engages the narrative head on, tests, filings, statements, she gains room to keep her machine running. If he lets the story free spin, she absorbs the turbulence by proximity. That's the tightrope. Stay and risk slow drip damage, step back and risk looking like you ran. And the turbulence doesn't slow when new names resurface. Because once $1 billion rumor hits, the secret child storyline doesn't end with Rymir. Another name keeps bubbling up, and her timing could turn pressure into chain reaction. Here's what happens when $1 billion rumor hits your timeline. The next name resurfaces like clockwork. The one most people whisper first isn't new at all. It's the Maryland story. A woman who's been online for years saying, "That's my father," pointing to Cambridge, family introductions, and a past that locals swear they remember. She didn't wait for Rymir to go viral to speak. She's been posting and talking since the 2020 wave. In the current cycle, the oxygen came from a fresh angle. Real estate. Radio blogs and socials started pushing a claim that Jay quietly bought a $1.7 million home in Cambridge, Maryland, allegedly tied to that same woman. It reads like a screenplay beat. House, hush, conditions. It's also exactly the kind of claim that spreads fast because it feels specific, even even when the sourcing is thin and the paperwork isn't public. Translation: great for views, light on receipts. Add a familiar cosign from the culture's rumor archives, a former associate who's popped up before to say there's a daughter in Cambridge, spinning it with details about bills paid and a deal that bans photos of him in the house. Whether you buy him or not, his hits keep the thread alive every time the larger narrative tilts. That's how older whispers become current again, recycled through new headlines until yesterday's tea tastes fresh. For the Carter machine, this is the headache. You don't need new facts to get new fallout. All you need is a big primary scandal and a supporting cast of unresolved claims. One resurfaces, then another. The audience stops tracking what's confirmed and starts tracking patterns. Refuse one DNA test too many in the public eye, and the internet writes all the endings for you. Does the Maryland story come with a stamped birth certificate and a filed paternity order? No. If it did, we'd be talking about court dates, not captions. What it does have is persistence. Years of posts, forums, and local chatter, plus a clean hook for this moment. If a billion-dollar storm can start from a filing, who else might step forward next? That's the chain reaction Jay-Z's camp dreads. Not one case, but momentum. Because in 2025, a mogul doesn't get toppled by a single hammer blow as often as he gets worn down by accumulation. And once accumulation sets in, the target isn't just the man, it's the empire, Rock Nation, sports, spirits, streaming. When perception shifts, balance sheets start to wobble. Moguls don't just have fame, they have ecosystems, labels, management rosters, sports clients, touring, live events, publishing, spirits, streaming equity. The whole web depends on one thing, the aura that everything is under control. The second that aura flickers, a different kind of math starts running in boardrooms. It's not guilt or innocence math, it's risk math. Brand safety teams slide a file across the table and ask 3 questions. Is the story growing? Can we predict the next headline? Do we have a clean exit if it turns? If they can't answer yes to at least 2, you'll see temporary holds, creative reworks, and re-evaluation of timelines. Nobody tweets that language, they just use it. Sports and artist management feel it fastest. Clients have their own sponsors with morals clauses that trip on certain keywords. A rumor storm means agents take calls they didn't schedule. Are we good to appear with him? Can we keep this campaign live? Nobody wants to be the face on a billboard the day a new filing drops, so calendars tighten. Then the cash curve follows. From the finance side, uncertainty gets priced in. Lenders ask for more documentation. Partners push for step-in rights. Joint ventures revisit governance language so one person's PR doesn't become everyone's balance sheet problem. If a payout ever became real, even a fraction of the meme number, liquidity plans would get drawn up in pencil. Trim a streaming stake here, carve slice of a catalog there, unwind a beverage position quietly, since you don't need a fire sale to feel heat. The threat of one is enough to make valuations sweat. Meanwhile, the media loop keeps pouring fuel. Search spikes trigger brand filters. Advertisers shift budgets to safer inventory for a quarter and forget to move them back. Rivals don't have to land punches. Memes will. A dozen snarky posts can shave a few points off the myth, and myth is the actual product a lot of this machine sells. None of this means collapse is inevitable. Empires survive tempests when leadership stabilizes the narrative and gives partners something solid to point to. Documents, timelines, a posture that looks like command. But if silence stretches and the drip continues, patience shortens. In a credibility business, momentum is revenue. So what's the move? Engage and reset with hard steps, or ride it out and hope the storm passes? The end game comes down to which plan he's willing to put in writing. At this level, there are only 2 playbooks: engage and reset, or ride it out and bet on endurance. Engage and reset looks like 3 moves: test, talk, timetable. Test. Do the thing the internet keeps chanting, DNA. Privately first with airtight terms, or publicly via a consent order so the result has finality. If it clears him, it kills the oxygen. If it doesn't, it's a controlled crater, not a freefall. Talk. One controlled sit down, not a puff piece, where he answers the obvious questions once. The point isn't sympathy, it's closure. Timetable. Publish a straightforward legal timeline. Brands don't need poetry, they need a PDF they can point to. There's a settlement branch inside this lane. Resolve persistent claims quietly with mutual non-disparagement. It buys peace, but can read like hush money online if the claimant's stated goal is public recognition. A check won't end the discourse. A definitive result will. Ride it out as the legacy strategy. Say very little, stack wins, and let success crowd the feed. Flood the zone with controlled outputs, music moments, philanthropic receipts, clean business headlines, while counsel handles filings in silence. Behind the scenes, stabilize partners with private briefings, governance tweaks, and clauses that firewall their risk from his press. This has worked for Titans before, until it doesn't. In a meme economy, silence isn't neutral. It's a canvas everyone else paints on. Both lanes have costs. Testing may invite copycat claims, or end them. Talking risks a soundbite. Staying quiet guarantees a narrative you didn't write. Settling calms a room until it leaks. Litigating everything proves resolve, while looking like stonewalling to the crowd, and hovering over all of it is Beyonce's calculus. Her brand survives storms, but it doesn't do drift. The longer the story meanders, the more she's forced to recalibrate publicly. More solo optics, fewer joint moves, hyper-precise rollouts that treat proximity as risk management. If he resets, she regains runway. If he rides it out, she carries the turbulence by association. Endgame then is simple and brutal. Pick a lane and finish it. In 2025, receipts beat rumors, but only if you put them on the table. So what's the verdict? Comeback or collapse? Let's land this with the only two futures that make sense, and the question you'll answer in the comments. This ends one of two ways. In the first future, the noise slows because the receipts get louder than the rumors. A clean legal sequence lands on the table. The 1.6 billion meme fades into remember when, and the empire snaps back into focus. Brands breathe. Partners stop hedging. Beyonce's machine does what it always does. Execute, and the story becomes a footnote about how fast the internet can run with a number that never lived in a courtroom. In the second future, the drip keeps dripping. Another filing, another source, another clip cut just right for 1 million views. The longer the vacuum sits, the more the public starts mistaking accumulation for confirmation. That's when perception hardens, not because of a single hammer blow, but because the audience decides the pattern is the point. Empires rarely implode all at once. They tilt slowly until one quiet push becomes the slide. Which one lands comes down to a choice most people never have to make. Control the narrative or be controlled by it. A single definitive move, on the record, not on the timeline, can reset a year in an afternoon. Or he can keep playing defense, betting that silence will feel like strength long enough for the wind to change. It's worked before for titans. It just works less in a world where a headline can become history by nightfall. There's also the human piece we keep scrolling past. Real people live in these headlines. Kids who didn't choose fame, a wife whose business is precision, a man with decades of public wins and private chapters we're still guessing about. Whatever your take, the stakes aren't just trending topics, they're legacies. And legacies are built or broken by what you put in writing when it counts. So is this the scandal that finally topples a modern icon, or the storm that he weathers with one well-timed, well-documented pivot? The answer isn't in a meme, it's in the next document we see, and whether it closes a door or opens 5 more. Your call, reset or ride it out. Which path makes sense now? Drop your take. If you want the full arc in one place, subscribe and ring the bell. I'll track filings, not just feeds.